What's up, guys? Tim Little. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Today's video, we are talking about how to catch bass in the heart of winter. Now, I can't tell if you guys can see this in the camera, but obviously my voice, me talking, you can see my breath in the air. It is a frigid 18 degrees right now, but bass have to eat, right? So we talked about this maybe a few weeks ago. I'm not sure. It's been a couple weeks. Hopefully you guys have been following along the channel and understand the importance of, or not the importance, the opportunity to catch giant bass in the dead of winter. You know, caught that big one just a couple weeks ago, nine something, low 9. But the opportunity to get out in the wintertime can be amazing, and you can catch a lot of fish. You can catch some of the biggest fish of the entire year, right? But when we start, we're here, right? We got snow on the bank, we got ice. This is floating ice right here. I don't know if you guys can tell that or not. Maybe I'll overlay some shots getting to this spot to film. Got some frozen water coming out of the bank. That's pretty cool. Bait on the surface over there. Crazy. Fish are crazy. But the importance of adjusting your tackle, your gear, and then being properly prepared. That's what we're going to talk about. 3 tips for you guys to catch more fish in the heart of winter, right? We have lows out here in East Tennessee. We've had lows down into the single digits the last couple days. And we haven't had highs above freezing for a couple days. So it's been pretty cold, but we've been catching some bass. And like I talked about in that previous video, even though the whole ecosystem kind of slows down, and even though these fish, their metabolism slow down, they still have to eat, right? So what do you think they want to eat if given the opportunity, right? Do they want to eat something small or something big? But that depends on your fishing, right? Do you want to throw a big swim bait? Do you want to throw something that's easy on the shoulder or something that's comfortable to fish? But understand that you have to adjust your baits as that water temp drops and those fish, that ecosystem slows down. You have to adjust the movement on your baits. So the number 1 tip is to fish dead action baits. Those of you guys that have followed the channel for several years probably know what that means. Some of you guys that are new to the channel, we appreciate the subscribe, might not know what that means. What that means is when it's springtime, when it's summertime, you know, you got all those little bait fish down there frolicking around. You have baby crappie, bluegill, shad just flickering and swimming around. Everything in that ecosystem is alive and moving quickly. So your baits, you have a lot of movement. Your jig trailers have a ton of movement. Your boot tail swim baits have a real wide kick. Like I said, your jig trailers, your worms have a ton of just tail flap and a lot of movement through the, I'm looking at the screen. It looks like I'm doing some kind of like artistic dance or something, but you guys get what I'm saying, right? There's a lot of fluidity in those baits, a lot of movement. Now, as we're looking at solid water, things slow down. You don't need a worm down there just flapping around. So typically, you know, a Ned rig, we love this X Zone, this guy right here, the Ned Zone. It's got a bulbous tail on it, okay? Lots of action, lots of movement, subtle movement, an amazing bait. Typically this time of the year, I throw this probably 10 months out of the year. I go back to the original, the TRD by Z-Man with that Elastec. It's just a do nothing bait. And guys, I apologize for the background here. I noticed in a recent video that my camo kind of blends in, but this has to do with my next tip, so that's why I picked this spot. But if you can see that, that's that Ned, that TRD by Z-Man. Really subtle movement, really subtle action, and that is really important. Like I said, you don't need a worm down there flailing around. You don't need a jig trailer down there with a ton of flaps, okay? We're going realistic. We're going realistic, and we might even be downsizing. We talked about that. There's that little jig trailer on there. Getting back to back with the The X Zone, that's that stealth craw. Very, very realistic. Gives these fish have a ton of time to inspect your bait. So we're going natural colors, we're going less movement, and we're going more realistic looking. So don't fish the same finesse baits, jig trailers, swim baits, crankbaits that you've been fishing all fall. We're in winter. This water, the water temp today, 36.2 degrees. That is cold, okay? Excuse me, 36.2 degrees. These fish, they don't want to move. Yes, we've seen on underwater footage, we've seen with the advancements of forward-facing technology, these fish do chase down baits. Our own fishing, chasing down a speed crank in 35-degree water and burning it as fast as you can. There are exceptions to the rule with that speed crank, but for the most part, everything else is slowing down. So let's talk about swim baits, because that's one of my favorite baits to throw all through winter, and definitely in the heart of winter. Whether it's on an Alabama rig or a single swim bait, a head, jig head, or an underspin, typically through the season, I'm throwing a swammer or a Kitech, a swing impact fat. Guys, these have a ton of tail swipe, paddle swipe, whatever you want to call it, some body roll, a lot of movement. Now that it's cold, we're going real subtle shimmy, real subtle kick. That's where I switch over to something like, I thought I had one of these rigged up. This is my favorite cold water swim bait, the little spark shad. Again, guys that have followed the channel, you guys know that we love going up north and chasing those giant smallmouth. Guess what? Super cold water, and this is hands down our best swim bait. The little spark shad on a little guppy head, just a little shimmy, a little kick. Man, I thought I pulled one up. I'm losing. It must be the cold weather. And then if you are a Kitech guy, switch over to the Easy Shiner. Okay, that guy right there, 3.5 is an awesome size. That's what I've been throwing on my A-rigs. Again, that has that tighter kick than its brother, okay? The swing impact fat, tons and tons and tons of big ones caught on that through the warmer weather months. Now we switch over to this guy. Rather the 4-inch, the 3.5-inch, you can even get the 3-inch for dummies if you're throwing a micro rig, but that guy right there is an awesome cold water swim bait, okay? And then last but not least, if you're a big bait guy, you guys know the power of this guy right here. The Huddleston 8-inch Deluxe, the Savage Gear is an awesome swim bait too. Both of those are probably the Savage Gear, I throw that more often than the HUD these days, but I wanted to show you guys this tail. The wedge tail. Again, it has to do with everything I just talked about. Real tight, right? Mag draft or some kind of boot tail swim bait, an Osprey has a real wide thumping kick. We don't want that in the cold water. So number one tip, guys, dead action baits or tight action baits. Follow? Number two tip. I'm watching my breath go. Hopefully I'm like, oh, blown into the mic or whatever, but number two tip. We talk about fishing bluff walls, steeper banks, banks close to creek channels or river channels where they swing into the bluff wall. Those fish will hang on these bluff walls. That's all well and good, but typically when you run up a river channel, you have two choices. You have the sunny side or the shady side, right? Don't be afraid to fish shade in the wintertime. Yes, it might be colder on you physically, but bass are ambush predators and they love hiding in the shadows. Make sense? Even when we're nighttime fishing, in the dead of winter, we will fish docks that have a bright light on them. You know why? They cast a shadow, and those big bass will sit in that shadow and wait for that easy meal to go up there in that light, and it gets silhouetted and they smoke it. Can't tell you how many big ones we've caught on that pattern. But wintertime, fishing the shady dock lines, fishing the shady bluff walls, fishing shade in general. Again, it just adds that extra layer of ambush ability, if that's a word, okay? You guys understand what I'm saying? Don't be afraid to throw that extra layer on, throw your gloves on, even though it's really comfortable in the sun, back out there to that shade line and fish that in the dead of winter, and you will be surprised with what you catch. All right, guys, those are my number 1 and 2 tips, right? Dead action baits, fish dark, fish shade lines in the dead of winter. Now, my number 3 tip is probably the most important tip I can give each and every one of you guys. It's not a flashy topic. It's not a fun topic, I guess, but it's a very, very, very important topic. And we're talking about having the proper gear out in the dead of winter out on the lake. Whether you're a shore-based angler or a kayak fisherman or fishing in a bass boat like this Skeeter right here, having the proper gear in the dead of, having the proper gear with you all the time is important. But when there's ice on the water, when you are the only boat on the lake, right? There's pros and cons to this, guys. A couple weeks ago, I talked about I was the only boat that I saw all day on Chickamauga. Ended up catching a 9-pounder. There's the pro side of that. The cons. What happens if my boat breaks down? What happens if I fall in the lake? What happens if, what if, right? And so that's what I want to talk to you guys about. Being prepared, having the right gear. And I figured this is the best time to talk about it. You know, before you guys click out of this video, I want you guys to really think about this stuff, because in my prior career, I was in law enforcement and had to do multiple drowning recoveries. Okay, and let me speak clearly to you guys. That is not something that you want, nor your friends and family wants, right? Having to look for a victim while the family and friends stand and watch watch on is something you don't want to ever have happen to you or your friends and loved ones. So hopefully this last tip kind of hits home with you guys. So number 1, wear the proper gear. Okay, I'm gonna run through my gear real quick. I'll link everything down below in the video description, but you know, I love the AFCO stuff. Matt and I, we love the AFCO stuff. We've been wearing that since they kind of made their push into freshwater. They were a huge player in the saltwater game. My number 1 thing that I wear this time of the year, right? We're talking single digits, low teens, is the Hydronaut. This is an insulated set, okay? Typically, I wear the least amount of gear as possible. Typically, I wear the thinnest gear as possible. Not right now. I'm wearing this suit. Like I said, it's insulated. It is so warm. You can tell I got my bibs on, got my wool socks, got my boots on. I'm warm, okay? If it does get colder or a storm comes in, I can throw my jacket on. But wearing the proper gear and having this insulated bib is night and day different than a traditional, really good, high quality rain gear set. Okay, this thing is very, very warm. Okay, I have a base layer on. This is a Reaper, and like I said, I have that jacket if I need to. So I wear the warmest suit as possible. You know, we've talked about it in past. Bring layers. That way, if it does get colder, you can add those layers on. If it does warm up and you start to get too hot, you can take those layers off. It's a system, right? So make sure that number 1 thing that you can do is make sure you wear the proper gear. Wool socks, waterproof boots, a base layer. And like I said, this thing has been, this is my 3rd season, I think, using this thing. And man, I couldn't say enough good about that insulated suit. It is awesome, especially when it is super cold out. Beanie, gloves. You make sure you have a couple sets of gloves. This is a new set by, again, AFCO, but again, I love this stuff. This is their breakwater. It's a waterproof glove. In a previous video, I talked about dexterity and how I like to have sensitivity and feel in my fingers. But there is times where I want to be waterproof, right? So these things are awesome. But you can wear, like, I know buddies that fish up north, they just wear your basic not rubber, but like your medical gloves, right? Real thin, but keeps that wind off your skin, keeps the water off your skin. But to each his own, whatever you like to use, just make sure you have the right gloves. And then as far as talked about clothing, guys, your life jacket, okay? Life jacket, kill switch. Now, it's really important in these types of conditions. Your deck gets icy, your kayak might get icy. If you're walking along the shore, obviously there's ice there, it's icy. Now, you don't probably need to wear a life jacket when you're fishing from shore, but if you're in a kayak or you're out on the water in some kind of vessel, make sure you have your life jacket on. I only take mine off when I'm fishing, and or if I have my Raptors out. If I'm anchored down, I'll take it off too. But typically, this deck can get a little icy, so you want to make sure that for any reason, if you end up in the water, that you have your life jacket on. So be careful. You'll see me in videos. I'll stick my boots up on the gunnel. You know, that stuff gets super slick this time of the year. All it takes is putting a little too much weight on that outer leg and whoop, you're in the drink, right? So just be thinking about that, because the pros fishing this time of the year, only 3 boats, 3 trailers at the ramp out on the lake where I'm at today. You know, there's pros to that. You get to fish your spots. You get to fish how you want to fish. Nobody's watching you catch fish. And you get an opportunity of catching some really big fish. The flip side, if something goes wrong, you don't have a lot of help out here. So just be cognizant of that. Real quick, I want to run through some of the stuff that is probably kind of boring, but like I said in this video a little bit ago, this is probably the most important tip, right? If you don't come out prepared and bad luck, something goes wrong, I've seen those situations, and guys, you don't want to be a part of that. So real quick, you know, this thing is beat to heck. It's all dirty, might even have some mold growing on it, but this is a dry bag, okay? I just want to show you guys what goes in every boat of mine, or comes with me every time, okay? Dry bag keeps everything dry. What do we got? We got a towel, okay? We have these guys. This is the Transformer rain suit, bibs or pants and jacket. They fold into themselves. These are literally the jacket and pants. So I keep a spare set of rain gear, a spare set of clothes, underwear, sweats, socks, t-shirts, hoodie. What else do I have in here? Socks. Okay. Hoodies. Okay. I just keep more clothing with me, because you get in a really bad storm, you get soaked, or you fall in the water, you want to be able to dry off and get yourself dry and put a new set of clothes on. Okay, I'll pack all this stuff up later, but you guys can see Matt and I are both prepared. Not only do we have this stuff, we have our tools and everything to fix our stuff mechanically, but we need to take care of our body. We need to take care of ourselves. So a couple more things for you. I did make some notes, just make sure I don't miss anything. A lighter. Quick story for you guys. Matt and I, a few buddies, were on a trip a handful of years ago, and it was cold. It wasn't wintertime, it was early spring, but we were in a cold part of the country, and our buddy had a boat accident. Basically hit an underwater log, ripped half the motor off the back of his boat, and long story short, if they weren't able to start a fire, they most likely would have died of hypothermia. It was snowing. It was high 20s. We got the call at 7 p.m. and Matt and I didn't get to them until 3:30 a.m. It's a long time to be out in the wilderness with no help, right? So make sure you have a lighter. Another thing I carry a spare cell phone charger. This is a battery pack. It's really easy, guys. I just throw this in my little glove box. I make sure my phone's always charged before I go out on the water, but just a little added backup, you know, for whatever reason. What's nice, the Skeeter has some USB charging cords down here, so my phone's charging throughout the day. But again, if you have your batteries go down or you have something, a mechanical issue, you have no way to get a hold of anybody, a little battery backup and a spare cord is what I carry. I do want to talk about this real quick again. I talked about taking mine off when I fish. You know, Matt and I, we've been blessed to travel the country and fish a lot of amazing places. We fish all 12 months out of the year. We travel, we fish, and we fish some amazing places. With all the positive, there's been some negatives too, right? One story I want to talk about, and this leads me to a tip. Well, I'll say the tip first. Make sure, guys, when you're getting out of your boat, just keep your life jacket on for that extra 15, 20 seconds until you get your feet on solid ground. We were at an event a few years ago. Everything was great. It was warm water. Everything was good. This guy went to step out of the boat to get the trailer. Stepped right there on the gunnel. It was wet. He slipped, fell backwards, bam, hit the back of his head, knocked out like that. Sunk like a rock. Luckily, the other guy in the boat got to grab him and kept him afloat. We all got over there and were able to get him out of the water. But guys, just something as simple as keeping your life jacket on, right? Even if you hit that water and you go unconscious, it'll keep you afloat where other people can help you. Just little things like that, guys. So if you're in a hurry to get out of your boat, take your time. Things are slick. The deck might be icy. Keep your life jacket on until you're out of the boat completely on solid ground. What other notes do I have? The last thing I want to talk about is your motor. You know, we all of us that are boat owners, we've heard guys that have blown their motors, especially in the wintertime, right? So we typically back down to the launch ramp. We back our boat in. Start our motor, it turns over, we let it warm up, okay? Everything's all well and good. If you're a guy that just backs your motor in and just rips off, you're gonna blow your motor, so don't do that. Give your motor ample time to warm up. Give it a long time to warm up. Some of you guys that have older two-strokes might even know that, maybe you don't know, that when you're warming up in neutral, there's only a few I think 4 cylinders going, right? But when you put it in gear, that's when those 2 extra cylinders move. So those cylinders might be frozen up. So make sure you do a long idle, warm that motor up properly. But more importantly, guys, you warm your motor up, you run 10 miles to your next spot. You have the whole lake to yourself. Again, you're the only boat on the water, trailer in the parking lot. You have that awesome spot to yourself, and you just start stroking them. You're catching them for an hour or two. You're like, hey, I have this other spot. Let's go run to that. You start your motor, woo, pop, blow your motor. Every time you start your motor when you're out in these types of conditions, guys, give your motor ample time to warm up every single time. Because guess what? When you pop your motor at the ramp, you're at the ramp. You controlling motor back. You might even see some people to help you out. When you're 10, 15, 20, 50 miles away from the ramp, you're the only boat on the lake and you just blew your motor. Not a good situation, guys. Not something that you want to be in. So be smart about that. Make sure you give your time. Don't be in a hurry. Give your motor ample time, enough time to warm up, and that way you won't have any motor issues this time of the year. All right, what else we got? Yeah, the only other thing, a jump box. I carry a jump box back there in my tools in case I do have a battery go dead or something. I have some tools that I can switch batteries around, move some cables around. Again, it kind of goes hand in hand with your motor. You don't want to have battery issues where you can't turn your motor over when you're that far from the launch ramp and there's no one to call on the lake that can come and help you. But guys, fishing in the wintertime can be amazing. All right, you guys have seen it already. Some good fish catches for us this year. Fishing in frigid conditions, but make sure you use the right baits. dead action baits, right? Make sure you're using the less action, less lively looking baits, more realistic looking baits, less lively moving baits. And don't be afraid to fish the shade, okay? As long as you have the proper gear, as long as you are prepared, you will catch bass in the shade when it's freezing out, guys. And then last but not least, more importantly, make sure you guys really think about this stuff. Make sure you are prepared, because we talk about how awesome it is out on the water this time of the year. But think about the what ifs and try to prepare for any of those situations that might come up, okay? Be prepared, think about it, be smart. Again, at the end of the day, we're only chasing, you know, fish, guys. There's a lot more to life than just fishing. It's a great sport. I love it. If we didn't love it, we wouldn't be out here putting ourselves through these conditions, right? We'd be on the couch at home watching TV. But it's an awesome hobby. It's the best sport in the world, and just want you guys to be thinking about that and be smart out on the water, because we want to influence you guys, or we want to help you guys or give you the confidence to go out in these conditions. But then we also want to talk to you guys about how to be prepared for these conditions, because if it was easy, if it was comfortable, everybody would be doing it, right? All right, guys, enough of the heavy stuff. We appreciate you. I will link these baits, some of our favorite wintertime baits, down below in the video description. Bring something warm to drink, wear the proper clothing, and you guys will have a ton of success out on the water. Guys, as always, Matt and I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, click that little bell, let you guys know when we have new content popping up. We're doing 6 days a week, guys. We do a lot of content for you guys. We don't want you to miss out. But again, thanks for watching. As always, we appreciate you, and we will see you guys on the next video.